You're having the same internal dialogue you had yesterday, and last year, and 5 years ago. And that's exactly why your life looks the same. Every morning, the same loops. Every night, the same regrets. You think you're thinking, but you're just reciting a script you memorized so long ago, you forgot it was a performance. And here's what's terrifying. These 9 conversations happening in your head right now, they're not just thoughts. They're architects. They're building your future, one internal word at a time. While you're busy living your life, these voices are busy writing it. By the end of this video, you'll recognize every single one of them. You'll see which ones own you. And more importantly, you'll understand why changing your life has been impossible, because you've been trying to change your actions while leaving the authors in charge. In this video, I'm going to expose the 9 conversations that run on loop in your mind. But this isn't self-help. This isn't positive thinking. This is forensic psychology. We're going to dissect the voices that have been dissecting you. Part 1. I'll show you the conversations you don't even realize you're having. Part 2. I'll reveal why these specific patterns hijacked your mind. Part 3. I'll show you how to fire the committee in your head and finally write your own script. But warning, once you hear these voices clearly, you can't unhear them. Once you see the puppet strings, you can't unsee them. Are you ready for that level of clarity? Let's begin. The first voice, the negotiator. Listen, it's probably talking right now. That voice that says, just this once. I'll start tomorrow. After this, I'm done. One more won't hurt. I deserve this. The negotiator doesn't sound dangerous. It sounds reasonable, compassionate even. It's not the voice of weakness. It's the voice of compromise. And that's exactly why it's destroying your life. Because the negotiator never negotiates for your dreams. It only negotiates for your comfort. It only argues for the easy choice. And it's brilliant at it. Watch how it works. You set a boundary. The negotiator softens it. You make a commitment. The negotiator adds conditions. You decide to change. The negotiator schedules it for later. I won't drink tonight becomes, well, just one to be social. I'm saving money becomes, this is a really good deal though. I'm leaving this toxic relationship becomes, maybe after the holidays. The negotiator has one job, to keep you exactly where you are by making you feel like you're being reasonable about it. The second voice, the prosecutor. Now this one, you definitely know. It's the voice that wakes you up at 3 a.m. to present evidence of your worthlessness. The voice that keeps detailed records of every mistake, every failure, every moment you fell short. You always do this. You never follow through. You're just like your father/mother. This is why people leave you. You had your chance, and you blew it. The prosecutor doesn't just criticize. It builds cases. It connects dots between your failures. It finds patterns in your pain. It's the voice that turns one mistake into an identity. Drop a glass? You're so clumsy. Miss a deadline? You're unreliable. Get rejected? You're unlovable. The prosecutor speaks in absolutes. Always, never, everyone, no one. It takes single data points and extrapolates them into life sentences. And here's the sick part. You believe it's protecting you. You think if you prosecute yourself first, no one else can hurt you. But the prosecutor doesn't protect. It convicts. And you've been serving a life sentence for crimes you committed when you didn't know better. The third voice, the defense attorney. Where the prosecutor attacks, the defense attorney excuses. This is the voice that shows up right after you do something you know you shouldn't have. It's got a file folder full of justifications, and it's ready to present them to the court of your conscience. It's not my fault because I had no choice. Anyone would have done the same, given my childhood. With my anxiety, depression, trauma, the defense attorney is brilliant. It can take any failure, any betrayal of your values, any moment of weakness, and spin it into a story where you're the victim, not the perpetrator. Never the perpetrator. Didn't follow through on your goals? Well, you have ADHD, lied to someone you love? They wouldn't have understood the truth. Stayed in your comfort zone? The economy is terrible right now. The defense attorney keeps you innocent, which means it keeps you powerless. Because if nothing is ever your fault, nothing is ever in your control. The fourth voice, the historian. This voice doesn't judge. It just remembers, constantly, obsessively. It's the voice that pulls you out of the present and drags you through the museum of your past. Remember when this is just like that time. The last time you tried this. You've been here before. History is repeating itself. The historian thinks it's keeping you safe by reminding you of patterns. But it's actually keeping you trapped by making you believe the past is prophetic. Every new situation gets filtered through old experiences. Every new person gets compared to old wounds. You meet someone new, but the historian sees your ex. You feel joy, but it warns you what happened last time. The historian has turned your life into a rerun, and that's why every season ends the same way. The fifth voice, the prophet. If the historian lives in the past, the prophet lives in the future, and it's always a dark future. This is the voice of catastrophic thinking, worst-case scenarios, and anxiety-inducing predictions. What if this will probably, I'll never be able to, this is going to end badly. Something terrible is about to happen. The prophet doesn't predict. It projects. It takes your current fears and extends them into future realities. One text left unread becomes "they're ghosting me." One criticism at work becomes "I'm getting fired." One symptom becomes "I'm dying." The prophet has made you an expert at suffering twice. Once in your imagination, and once if it actually happens. Usually it doesn't happen. But the prophet doesn't keep track of its failed predictions. It just keeps prophesying doom. And because you're always bracing for impact, you're never fully present. You're living in a future that hasn't happened, preparing for pain that might never come. The sixth voice, the performer. This might be the most exhausting voice of all. The performer is the one that's constantly aware of how you're being perceived. It's the voice that turns every interaction into a stage and every conversation into an audition. Did that sound stupid? I should have said. They probably think, I need to seem more. Quick, say something funny. The performer is why you replay conversations for hours after they end. Why you rehearse what you're going to say before you say it. Why you can't just be. You have to be something for someone. The performer has turned your entire life into a show. But here's the tragedy. The audience isn't even paying attention. They're too busy listening to their own performer, worried about their own show. You're performing for people who are performing for you. Everyone acting, no one connecting. Everyone watched, no one seen. The seventh voice, the scorekeeper. This voice turns everything into a competition. It's constantly measuring, comparing, ranking. You against them, today against yesterday. Your progress against their progress. I should be further along. Everyone else has. It's not fair that the scorekeeper has turned your life into a game where the rules keep changing and you're always losing. It doesn't matter what you achieve. Someone else achieved it younger, faster, better. It doesn't matter what you have. Someone else has more. The scorekeeper keeps you in a constant state of scarcity. There's never enough success, love, or validation because someone else always has more. And the scoreboard? It's rigged. You only count others' victories and your own defeats. The eighth voice, the philosopher. This voice sounds wise. It sounds deep. But it's actually a master of paralysis through analysis. The philosopher turns every simple decision into an existential crisis. But what does it all mean? What's the point, anyway? But what if I'm wrong about everything? Maybe nothing matters? The philosopher keeps you stuck by making you think you need perfect clarity before you can act. It turns every choice into a referendum on your entire identity. It makes you question everything while changing nothing. Should you take that job? The philosopher turns it into a question about capitalism and authentic existence. Should you text them back? The philosopher makes it about the nature of human connection and modern alienation. The philosopher has convinced you that thinking about life is the same as living it. But you can't think your way into a new existence. At some point, you have to stop philosophizing and start choosing. The ninth voice, the ghost. This is the quietest voice, the most dangerous. It's the voice of who you used to be before all the other voices took over. It whispers, "This isn't you. You used to dream bigger. Remember when you believed? You've lost yourself. Who have you become? This isn't the life you wanted." The ghost is your authentic self, buried under years of negotiation, prosecution, defense, history, prophecy, performance, scorekeeping, and philosophy. It's the voice you've been drowning out because listening to it would mean admitting how far you've drifted from who you really are. But the ghost won't stay quiet forever. It's the voice behind your 3 a.m. restlessness, your Sunday night dread, your birthday depression. It's trying to wake you up, but you keep hitting snooze. 9 voices, all talking at once, all writing your story while you think you're living it. But knowing they exist isn't enough. In part 2, we need to understand why these specific voices hijacked your mind. The truth about these voices? They're not random. They're not even yours. They were installed. And I'm about to show you exactly how it happened. You weren't born with these voices. You were born with one voice. Yours. Clear, authentic, unfiltered. But that voice was too honest, too wild, too real for the world you were born into. So the installation began. Age 4. You expressed anger. Someone said, "Good boys or girls don't act like that." The performer was installed. Age 7. You failed at something. Someone said, "Why can't you be more like your sister/brother?" The scorekeeper was installed. Age 10. You told the truth about something uncomfortable. You were punished. The negotiator was installed to help you avoid future pain. Age 13. You were rejected, hurt. The prophet was installed to help you see danger coming. Age 16. You made a mistake. It was held against you. The prosecutor was installed, and right behind it, the defense attorney. Age 20. You tried something bold. It didn't work. The historian was installed to remind you not to try again. Age 25. You looked at your life and didn't recognize it. The philosopher was installed to help you rationalize the gap. And through it all, the ghost, your original voice, got quieter and quieter until you could barely hear it at all. Here's what nobody told you. These voices aren't trying to hurt you. They're trying to protect you. Each one is a defense mechanism that made sense at the time it was created. The negotiator protected you from the pain of discipline. The prosecutor protected you from external criticism by getting there first. The defense attorney protected you from the unbearable weight of responsibility. The historian protected you from repeating pain. The prophet protected you from being blindsided. The performer protected you from rejection. The scorekeeper protected you from complacency. The philosopher protected you from meaninglessness. But here's the problem with protection. What protects you at 7 years old imprisons you at 27. What saves you in one situation enslaves you in all situations. These voices became your operating system. And like any operating system, they run automatically in the background. You don't choose to negotiate, prosecute, defend, remember, predict, perform, compare, or philosophize. It just happens. Now here's where it gets dark. These 9 voices don't just narrate your life. They create it. They're not describing reality. They're manufacturing it. The negotiator convinces you to break promises to yourself. Then you become someone who can't trust themselves. The prosecutor tells you you're a failure, so you stop trying, which makes you fail, which proves the prosecutor right. The defense attorney helps you avoid responsibility, so you never develop agency, which keeps you powerless, which gives you more to defend. The historian reminds you of past pain, so you avoid similar situations, which keeps you from growing, which ensures history repeats. The prophet predicts disaster, so you play it safe, which keeps you small, which feels like a different kind of disaster. You don't live in the world. You live in the story these voices tell about it. Let me show you what these 9 voices cost you yesterday. Morning. You woke up. The prophet immediately started listing everything that could go wrong today. The negotiator suggested staying in bed just 5 more minutes. The prosecutor reminded you that you're already behind. Breakfast. The scorekeeper noticed your friend's Instagram story from the gym. The performer crafted the perfect response. The philosopher wondered what the point of fitness really is in the face of mortality. Work. The historian remembered the last time you spoke up in a meeting and were shot down. The defense attorney prepared excuses for why your project is late. The ghost whispered that this isn't the career you wanted. Evening. The negotiator talked you out of your evening workout. The prosecutor attacked you for being lazy. The defense attorney blamed your exhausting job. Night. The prophet worried about tomorrow. The performer replayed every conversation from today. The philosopher questioned whether you're living authentically. The ghost tried to speak, but the committee was too loud. This is your life. Every single day. The same 9 conversations, creating the same outcomes, building the same future that looks exactly like your past. But I need you to see the deeper pattern. These 9 voices aren't random. They work together in a perfect system designed to keep you exactly where you are. The past, present, future. Lock. The historian chains you to the past. The performer traps you in the present. The prophet poisons your future. The action prevention system. The negotiator stops you from starting. The philosopher stops you from committing. The scorekeeper stops you from being satisfied. The identity destruction cycle. The prosecutor attacks who you are. The defense attorney denies who you are. The ghost mourns who you were. You're not dealing with 9 separate voices. You're dealing with a perfectly designed system for self-sabotage. A committee dedicated to keeping you safe, small, and sane. So now you see them. All 9. The committee that's been running your life while you thought you were in charge. The board of directors you never elected, but who vote on every decision you make. The question is, how do you fire them? How do you reclaim the microphone in your own mind? How do you finally, after all these years, hear your own voice again? That's what part 3 is about. Not silencing the committee. That's impossible. But removing them from power. Because you can't change your life until you change the conversation. And you can't change the conversation until you know who's really speaking. You can't kill these voices. Let me be clear about that. Trying to silence them only makes them louder. Fighting them gives them energy. Denying them drives them underground, where they do more damage. But you can dethrone them. Right now, these 9 voices are your board of directors. They have voting rights on every decision. They have veto power over every dream. They write the minutes of every meeting in your mind. It's time for a coup. The first step isn't to stop the voices. It's to name them when they speak. This changes everything. Because the moment you recognize which voice is talking, it loses its power to possess you. When you hear just this once, you say, "Hello, negotiator." When you hear, "You always mess up," you say, "I see you, prosecutor." When you hear, "It's not my fault," you say, "Nice try, defense attorney." This isn't a game. This is reprogramming. You're moving from unconscious reaction to conscious recognition, from being the voices to observing the voices. Try it right now. Whatever thought you're having about this video, which voice is it? The scorekeeper, comparing this to other content you've seen? The philosopher, questioning if this is too simplistic? The prophet, wondering if this will actually work? The negotiator, suggesting you'll try this tomorrow? Name it, out loud, if you're alone, in your mind if you're not, but name it. Here's the revolutionary act. You stop letting the committee vote. When the negotiator says, "Just this once," you respond, "I hear you, but I'm not taking suggestions right now." When the prosecutor says, "You're a failure," you respond, "Thank you for your opinion. I'm doing it anyway." When the defense attorney says, "It's not your fault," you respond, "Maybe not, but it is my responsibility." You acknowledge them. You thank them for their service. And then you act without their permission. This feels impossible at first, like trying to drive while 9 backseat drivers scream directions. But every time you act without the committee's approval, you weaken their authority. Every time you move despite their protests, you strengthen your own voice. Remember the ghost? That 9th voice? The one that's been trying to remind you who you really are? It's time to give it the microphone. But the ghost speaks differently than the other 8. It doesn't argue. It doesn't convince. It doesn't negotiate or prosecute or defend. It simply knows. The ghost says things like, "This is what I want. This is who I am. This is what's true. This is what I choose." No justification, no explanation, no committee meeting, just clear, calm truth. Every morning, before the committee starts their meeting, ask yourself one question. If the voices weren't talking, what would I do today? Not what should you do, not what makes sense, not what's reasonable or responsible or safe. What would you do if the negotiator couldn't negotiate, the prosecutor couldn't prosecute, the defense attorney couldn't defend? Write it down. One thing. Maybe it's sending that message. Maybe it's starting that project. Maybe it's ending that relationship. Maybe it's booking that ticket. Then, and this is the revolution, do it. Do it while the negotiator screams for compromise. Do it while the prosecutor lists every way it could fail. Do it while the prophet predicts disaster. Do it anyway. You need new rules for the voices. A constitution for your consciousness. Article 1. The committee may speak, but they no longer vote. Article 2. Recognition of a voice immediately removes its executive power. Article 3. The ghost's whisper outweighs the committee's screams. Article 4. Action without permission is not just allowed, it's required. Article 5. I am not my thoughts. I am the one who chooses which thoughts to honor. When you start living by these new rules, something strange happens. The 9 voices don't disappear. They transform. The negotiator becomes the strategist, finding creative solutions instead of compromises. The prosecutor becomes the coach, pushing you to grow instead of shrink. The defense attorney becomes the advocate, fighting for your dreams instead of your excuses. The prophet becomes the visionary, seeing possibilities instead of catastrophes. And the ghost becomes you, full volume, full power, full presence. You now know the 9 voices. You understand their origin. You have the tools to dethrone them. But knowledge without action is just philosophy. And the philosopher has had enough airtime. So here's your assignment. Not tomorrow, not after you think about it. Now. In the comments below, write this. The voice that owns me most is name it. Tomorrow, I'm doing specific action without its permission. Be specific. Be real. Be the example of someone who just staged a coup in their own consciousness. The committee is still talking. They always will be. But for the first time in years, maybe decades, they're nervous. Because you're not just listening anymore. You're awake to the game. Let them talk. Because the ghost, your true voice, just heard its name called. And once awakened, it doesn't go back to sleep. Your future isn't written by the conversations you've been having. It's written by the conversations you're about to change. And that change, it starts with your next thought. Choose wisely. The committee is listening. But for the first time in your life, they're not in charge. You are. Welcome to your revolution.